bounce along now to number 4. How are we building rapport with our guests? Okay, now I'm going to jump over to Joe Gilmour because Joe Gilmour was talking about some questions that he's asking, some things he's doing, some things he's talking about with them. We want to hear this stuff, Joe. Go ahead. How are you building that rapport through questions?
Okay, so the first thing that I do is when people walk through the doors, I ask them, so here, how did you hear about our open house? Okay, now personally, I really don't care how they heard about it. I just have to ask this question to just set it up. So my second question, though, is I look right at them and I say, so tell me, how have you been getting into homes?
I love that.
Okay.
Love that.
And what they'll say to me is either they'll say, oh, I have an agent, or they're going to say, what do you mean by that? And I'll say, well, you see a home that you love. How are you getting inside to look at it? And they'll say, oh, well, we've just been looking on Zillow. We've been looking at different stuff. And, so immediately I pre-qualified them immediately. So once that happens, if they do have an agent, and I hate to be harsh about this, they're kind of just like dead to me. They can just walk around the place and take a look and all that. So, but if they say to me, oh, I've been looking on Zillow and all that stuff, I'm like, okay, why don't you guys go ahead and take a look around? I don't follow them around. I say, I'll be right here waiting for you, right? When you come out, because I want to ask you some questions. So they'll walk around, they take everything in. When they come back towards me, I look at them and I say, hey, I have one question for you. Can you see yourself living in this home? Okay. Now, I don't care if they do or they don't. Okay. I just want to be able to say, if they say, yes, I love the home, I'm going to say, why do you love this home? What is it about this home that you love? I love the area. Awesome. I love this area also. So what about the areas that you love? It might be the kids' school. They may have a relative nearby, whatever it is. But I'm going to continue asking them questions. Now, the key to this, you guys, is you got to remember, I learned this when I was at Chase Bank and I had a problem with my bank account. I'm talking to the manager. All she keeps doing is looking over my shoulder and not paying attention to me. If I find the one that does not have an agent, okay, I stare at them and ask them questions and don't pay attention to anybody else in that room. I'm only talking to them and asking them questions. So when I'm able to get as much information, answer their questions, then I'm able to get their contact information, ask them if they'd like to look at properties after the open house is done. Once they leave, I go find another one and ask the exact same questions again.
I love it. Joe, there was one year you had, you had what, 77 or 78 listings from going and hitting expireds. And I know it's way off subject, but right, 1 year. Yeah,
that was in a bit of a unique area. This was like my second year in real estate, and I was in a super rural area that was lakefront homes. Okay. And it was a good old boy network, and no one ever did expireds. And I blanketed the whole place. And so the point being, and why I wanted to say that, Joe, is because 4 realtors can go into a listing appointment and only one gets it. 4 realtors can go into an open house and have 4 different outcomes. And the thing I tell all advisors is it's all in how you say things, how you deliver it, your tonality, your confidence, everything, the questions you ask, the rapport you build. So stuff like what Joe just said and what our panel of advisors is saying is so awesome. And I hope you guys can pull some stuff from it. Thank you, Amelia, let me just throw in one thing really quick. I've had multiple people that have told me that they have an agent that goes over to my board over there and listens to me talking to these people and asking them questions and building rapport with them, that have come up to me and said, my agent has never asked me those types of questions before.
I love it. And you know what? Well, are you in contract with your agent?
Right.
No. Okay.
I'm not looking to take anybody. I'm only just saying that, that's happened before.
Well, I mean, another thing too, like I know in Rhode Island, we lock our buyers up in buyer contracts, because it's like a listing, like you wouldn't list a home without a listing contract, lock them up in buyer contracts. If not, they're free agents. Totally. They're not your agent, but you know what I'm saying. All right, let's move along. Good stuff, Joe. Thank you so much. Liana, how are you building rapport? This is something you do extremely well with your guests. How are you building rapport in an open house?
So like Joe was saying, as soon as I find that they're not working with anyone, I just focus on creating a rapport with them and get the connection. And as soon as I'm done with the open house, I send them a text message. I keep the connection. I call them. I just try to do, as much connection we have. And I send them listings similar to, what they're looking for. And until they tell me no, not to send it, but I try to just connect with them and give value.
Thank you, Liana. We're going to jump over to Brandy. Brandy, what are you doing to build a rapport in opens?
So at the open house, I think it's really important to set a very comfortable environment. I do not approach the guests as soon as they come into the door. We do have homes here which have rooms and separate spaces, so it's a little bit different than a condo and things like that. But I have music playing. I have candles that are on. I have the MLS brochure sheets, the improvements, all those things at the door. And when I hear the door open, I kind of peek my head out. Hi, I'm Brandy. Thanks for coming out today. If you could just, put some booties on or take your shoes off, the homeowners would appreciate it. And there's some information on the table. So why don't you take that and I'll meet you in the kitchen. And I let them come into the house. I don't really talk to them about the improvements and those kind of things. I want to make it very comfortable. Once they've had a few minutes and they come into the kitchen, I ask them to do their sign in. And that's when I really kind of start the interview. If they have kids, it's a really great way to connect. So I do have from Brand Central, the EV coloring books and the crayons. So I always have those set out on the table with some juice boxes and things like that for the kids so that the parents can go through the house by themselves and really focus. On the other hand, there are some kids that are really afraid to leave their parents and don't want to. So I have the brochure with me in the kitchen. I'll give them a copy of the brochure and I'll say, let's go play a game of finders keepers. If you find a room, we'll let mom and dad keep the house. See if you can find every room in this brochure, every picture, and match it up to the room. Then they go through, they do that. Everybody kind of has a much better time. When they come back downstairs, I asked the kids, I said, hey, did you find your bedroom? And they'll usually say yes, or, oh, I found all the pictures, or I found the fireplace room, which is great. And then I'll ask the parents, did you find a bedroom that works for you? And then we kind of have that conversation. I do ask them if they're familiar with the area, which is the opportunity to add value, where they're coming from. So is there a potential sale? Are they a renter? What's their market? How long they've been looking and where they've been looking. So I, on the other hand, do not ask them if they have an agent. I don't care. They're going to like me more. And today is going to be the day that they are my client.
I love it, Brandy. Look at that. You let them in, nice soft approach, and then you get the claws. No, but that is such a cool move. Thank you so much for sharing that. Neil, what do you got going on? How are you building rapport with your guests?
For me, everybody's different. I know when it comes down to it. So I always look at it that you have 5 to 10 minutes to get as much information that you can out of them. And I've seen so many brokers over time that they do more of the talking and they don't really do any of the listening. So I probably ask fewer questions, but I try to ask the right questions. And then one of the things that I also try to do is I try to figure out what is one thing that I can figure out how we already have a connection. So for example, when people walk in, I give them all the basics of the home. And I tell them they have the listing sheet and all the brochure, take whatever you'd like, and then help them sign in. But then I feel them out on kind of what they know about the neighborhood, and if they have kids, and if they're not from Chicago. Like, for example, I used to sponsor a group called the Neighborhood Parents Network. It's a non-for-profit that focuses on parents that want to stay living in the city, and everybody goes there for doctors, nannies, and schools. And so then if they're not even from the area, you immediately have a connection, and I'm already giving them something because I'm providing that information from them and I'm texting that to them. And so, but to me, I feel like trying to figure out something that you have in common or some connection that you have immediately is going to create that, create that a little bit more of a bond.
Agreed. That's total comfort right there. When you're, oh, wow, that person, blah, blah, blah. Love it. Great stuff. Virginia Bond in Tampa downtown. What are you doing to build rapport?
So I come from the new home construction industry. I was worked for a builder in a model center for 10 years. So I was trained to do presentations on houses and trained to always get up and greet the person. I have found that I've gone into a lot of luxury home listings during open houses, and I don't know who the listing agent is because they never greet me. So I'm a big believer in shaking people's hands and greeting them because I just think it's courtesy. Also, I feel like you should just love people. I love engaging with people. They make my time go by, and I prefer adults maybe because but I prefer to just engage them like a casual conversation. And to me, everyone that walks through the door, I always ask, how did you find us? I want to know if my marketing dollars are being spent properly. So that's part of my registration is how did you hear about our open house today? And everyone is valuable. We do a 1-hour training with any advisor that wants to do an open house for us. You can't open our houses unless you've done that. And we explain to them that the open house is not ours. This is someone's property. So if they're allowing us to conduct our business in order for us to earn a living while we're in their property, everyone that comes to the door, including the UPS guy, has to be treated the same. So when we register someone that does have a realtor, our registration form does ask that. I like the way someone else mentioned that they ask, how do they have a realtor? But that buyer is still a buyer. So what we do is when we go back to our desks, we follow up with that agent and let them know that their buyer came through. So to me, the open house is not for us, it's for the client. And we just have to conduct it in a way that's as productive as possible. So I enjoy everyone. I enjoy talking to everyone, and greeting them to me is critical. I just find that that's a professional thing to do.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, great. You guys really knocked the ball out of the park in that question. Thank you.